From the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media, A Neighbor's Choice. And I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gronowski. So glad to be with you here on our program. We're soaring high across the Sunshine State, and my oh my, was that an interesting debate for political junkies last night. Some people have had enough, of course. A long time ago, a lot of people turned off politics because they're tired of listening to people who run up deficits and debt and bankrupt the country on both sides of the aisle. And they say, hey, you know what? I don't want to hear them take credit for the economy. We're the ones that have to suffer from the political interventions that governments make. And I don't really want to hear them do their little platitudes. But I thought, as debates go, it was a pretty good debate. And I think it was clear that, what we saw was the real death throes of the TV era. The TV era was really in display last night's debate, where it was clear that, first of all, the moderator, of course, got a lot more positive feedback for neutrality than say, Chris Wallace. But at the same time, I didn't think she was all that fair to the real issues because, for example, she spent no time talking about things like foreign policy. She talked a big game about the Black Lives Matter organization, which on its website and its statements of belief before they deleted it said, we want to dismantle the Western nuclear family. They don't want to have mom and dad and a kid. They don't like that. They think that that's their mission, to destroy that. They took that down once they got some PR flack for it, but that's what they've been functioning on their whole time. Hate the family. So they use something that sounds good, Black Lives Matter. That's something no one disagrees with, who is a decent person. Of course, that's true. But they take that slogan and then they create an organization that raises millions of dollars off of people suffering. And they go and give it to people like Joe Biden, who's got 50 years of locking people up. And I'm glad that President Trump made that clear. I mean, he could have made it even clearer, but he was pretty sharp on that point of pointing out that these folks that the media wants to tell you are your heroes for racial justice have spent 50 years at the trough designing bills to incarcerate people, particularly emphasizing attacks against Black people, as President Trump mentioned in the debate. That was a good moment because that needed to be said. And of course, the media will not say anything true about the Biden campaign because that's their ticket. The media is a state press. They want the one-party rule back in power. They want the Bushes, the Obamas, the Bidens, the Clintons, those kind of easily controllable Muppets back into power. They don't like Trump because he deviates just a little bit off script, and that is too dangerous for such a fragile religion like statism, which demands sacred decorum, which demands sacred aura, which demands unquestionable perpetual war. You saw what happened last night. You saw what was going on with the debate. There was not a single question about, they talked about being very sensitive about justice issues here at home. Didn't do it justice, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, they didn't mention one thing about, say the name of Anwar al-Awlaki, who was killed by a drone under Obama and Biden and John Brennan, a U.S. citizen, and his 16-year-old son and his friends were killed by a drone strike and multiple drone strikes during the Obama administration. Nobody said his name. Why don't we say his name? The moderator doesn't do that. She didn't ask Biden to defend his legacy of creating a modern-day slave trade in Libya. If Black Lives Matter, you would think that the moderator would care that there is a human rights atrocity taking place in Yemen under the Trump administration. But why doesn't she speak about that? Why doesn't, if she's all about getting little zingers in, which she did, and many of the media all do, any little zinger they can get to try to make Trump look bad, then why don't they talk about Yemen, where there's a starvation campaign? They can show photos and say the name of this Yemen person, say the name of fill in the blank, say the name of all these people who have been killed because of our intervention in Yemen. The reason why she doesn't say anything is because they stand for perpetual war. And if they stand for perpetual war, they can't criticize Trump when he's going along with what they want. And so in Yemen, even though he's wrong to perpetuate Obama's horrible mass starvation campaign in Yemen, because Obama started it, of course, they can't criticize Trump on that. They have to talk about the poor boys or some kind of stupid stuff. You got Joe Biden mixing up Trump with Abraham Lincoln. He was really fading. And it was clear that this attempt by the establishment to install a Weekend at Bernie's puppet with Joe Biden is backfiring because he's not up for it. They wanted as empty of a puppet as they could get, but it kind of backfired because he's fallen apart faster than they, I think, anticipated. They thought, okay, he'll be easily controllable. They liked the fact that he was in a fragile state, very easily controllable. That's the kind of fake, surface mayor ribbon cutting president that the establishment likes, so that the permanent state of bureaucrats in Washington and their corporate allies can just run things. Remember that steady state they talked about? So that's what's going on there. And they didn't want to mention the wars. They didn't say anything about Syria, the atrocities, the rise of ISIS. They didn't say anything about Libya. They didn't say anything about Obama's policies of drone strikes in Pakistan and Afghanistan. None of that. None of those lives matter to the press. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. But of course, they don't care because their job is to be a PR spokesperson for the status quo, for the establishment. Their job is to just do what they have to do to sell the establishment narrative. And when you're spending $1 trillion a year on average for our foreign policy adventures, that is a lot of money. Have you ever seen how much corruption goes involved with your local city council over the creation of a new road or a new bridge or a new, tiny little pathway? There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of sleazy, terrible stuff that happens for the most minute little things in this world. How much more so would there be deep corruption, deep collusion between the media and corporations and government for the perpetuation of a $1 trillion windfall for our foreign policy expenditures every year? $1 trillion. See, these numbers don't do justice because studies have shown people just check out after a certain time. You can say 1 billion, 1 trillion, 500 billion, and it all kind of just, we can't conceive of it. So it just sounds like a lot. And that reminds me of the old saying, who was it, Stalin, that said this? I don't know if it was correctly attributed to him or not, but one death is a tragedy and 1,000 deaths is a statistic. And that's unfortunately the way the media works. They rightly talk about the unjust killing of George Floyd. That's right. They rightly talk about the unjust no-knock raid of Breonna Taylor. That's right. You shouldn't be barging in, guns drawn, because there's a nonviolent situation. That's no reason. Jesus says, "Do not resist evil with violence." And if there's a drug issue, you don't raise a gun to solve the problem. So those are right to bring up. But what's interesting is when there's thousands of people like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, meaning people who have been unjustly killed by government policy, innocent civilians, when there's thousands and tens of thousands of Breonna Taylors and George Floyds in Libya, killed directly by the actions of Obama, Biden, when there's thousands of Breonna Taylors and George Floyd situations in Afghanistan, when there's thousands and thousands in Ukraine, when there's thousands and thousands in Syria, when there's thousands and thousands in Africa, where our government policy under Obama, Biden was very ruthless and very warmongering and very oppressive. Nobody talks about that in the corporate press because they are there to sell you the status quo. So I thought the debate was very interesting because it showed that the TV party the TV era of thinking is really falling apart because it just doesn't hold up once you have a candidate on stage like or the president who doesn't play the same script. He just doesn't stay on script. He just speaks a little bit more direct and to the point. Doesn't mean he's right on everything, but he's a little bit more direct. He's a little bit more real. He's not canned. Every time Joe Biden would look into the camera and do one of his memorized lines that a focus group had created for him to try to gaslight the public into psychological manipulation. Look, folks, when I see the tables empty, I won't. And then Trump would just say, look, you're just sounds like a politician. You've been here for 50 years. Why are you still doing this? It doesn't work. You know, you've said this over and over again and you didn't do anything. Why do you still want power? What is the purpose of these lines? They don't mean anything. And I think that was an effective display. So I think Trump won the debate. And I think that this is going to be an interesting moment. Kent Online says, anyone else think it's extremely convenient that Hunter Biden just happened to drop off a laptop with incriminating information in it weeks before the election? Not to mention Anthony Weiner is on TV discussing the election after being found guilty of exposing himself to underage girls and grooming them. Literally a repeat of 4 years ago. It's all theater. So it's hard to say what's what in all this. You know, is it, you know, how much is what, who's behind what, what's doing what. But what we do know is that the TV party, that is the idea that you have 3 television channels and they tell you exactly what the establishment wants you to think, that those days are falling apart. It's just not holding up much longer. And we're moving into a digital era. And of course, the TV party mentality is moving into the digital era too and trying to lock it down and emulate that same monolithic monopoly voice where you curtail reality and gaslight the public by selectively giving them information and manipulating them with emotionally charged words so as to create the outcome you want for their mind. But the digital age, of course, they're trying to bring in the TV era monopoly with Facebook, YouTube, Google, and so on. But because it's just so hard to lock it all down in a digital world, it is not working the way they wanted. They can do it for a while. They can delete conservative Inc. people off of Twitter and they can cry and complain and all that. So they can do some. But it's more transparently open that the censorship is desperate. Once you see them block people like the New York Post for sharing a story about Hunter Biden, it's obvious that, you know, their little game is more transparently ridiculous. It's more transparently rigged. And therefore, the multiplicity of voices that we see, people on social media, people on blogs and podcasts, this radio broadcast, whatever, when you have more and more perspectives, you can see the crime for what it is a lot more clear. And that's exactly what we're seeing with the destruction of the TV era right before our eyes. It's a great thing, but it's fraught with danger because there's all kinds of ways this can go upside down in different ways. So we have to be a part of building that new media culture. We'll continue live on A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Granosky. You can email me, hello@aneighborschoice.com. Back in just a second. David Granosky here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals. Join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER.
If you want to grow your savings these days, it's good to own gold. Who wants to hold dollars in a savings account earning 0.5%? Instead, check out Monetary Metals, started by my frequent guest, Keith Weiner. They put your gold to work, and you earn 2 to 4% interest, paid out not in dollars, but in more ounces of gold. Plus, there are 0 vault fees. With several active deals open right now, they're taking new clients today. Learn more at interestongold.com/David. That's interestongold.com/David.
The following message is presented by Tampa General Hospital.
Hi, I'm Jan Berry. The leading cancer among women is breast cancer. I am a breast cancer survivor.
Hi, and I'm Richard Gosmartin. The leading cause of cancer among men is prostate cancer. I am a prostate cancer survivor.
I had very little symptoms and was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer.
And I had no symptoms when I was diagnosed with stage 1 prostate cancer.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whatever the month is, I urge you to get tested.
September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Trust me, guys, it can save your life. Get tested.
Our marketing partners bring you this vital message as a reminder to get tested. Do it for yourself. Do it for your family.
And your life can depend on it.
This message presented by Tampa General Hospital and brought to you by Auto Glass America.
Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a 6th-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon.
A Neighbor's Choice returns. I'm your host, David Gronowski. Happy to be with you. Happy to have this time to explore the news together as we respond to last night's presidential debate between Trump and Biden. But there's other news. You've got a story, Week 7, NFL Thursday night ratings sink into the toilet. They're down significantly. You're seeing a situation where it continues to go sour. Even the NBA was even worse, it seemed. You got another story of Obama-Biden. The administration approved sale of strategic Michigan manufacturer to Hunter's Chinese military friend. So there's all kinds of strange stuff, but this is the way it's always been. This is not something unique to the Bidens. This is the status quo for both parties. Don't let anybody tell you, oh yeah, it's just one team. No, one team definitely is the preferred team right now, and has been for some time, because they represent a more accurate depiction of the kind of state that folks in the establishment want people to worship. Let me put it this way. The left is more effectively imitating the concern for victims, which is at the heart of the politically correct view of the state. The right does it, but not as effectively. The right's brand's kind of like the off brand. The conservative ink is kind of like RC Cola. It's not meant to be the official drink. It's not meant to be the official soda, right? It's not the real deal. It's not the big leagues. It's the token team that the Harlem Globetrotters plays so that the Harlem Globetrotters look good. They're meant to lose. That's what the right does. Even when they win, they're meant to lose because they're meant to look like villains in their winning, right? Look at George W. Bush. He lost. I mean, they had that situation in Florida. And then they do the Afghanistan war, they do the Iraq war, and they paint him out to be this villain. But it was a bipartisan thing. both parties, Kerry, all of them, they all wanted the war. And then when Kerry got in power with Obama as Secretary of State, he went over and started all kinds of warmongering in Syria. And people don't even remember that Kerry was branded to the lemmings and low information people as some kind of stalwart anti-war critic of empire in 2004. And here he is under Obama, 2013 or whatever, whenever he's Secretary of State, doing his Syria stuff. And he's creating a terrible, heinous, atrocious, terroristic situation in places like Syria and Yemen and so forth. So, and did anybody write a single article about how does one character go from being this is anti-war Woodstock hippie to this is a guy who's now criticizing Trump for not being warmongering enough? They trotted out Kerry during the DNC as a kind of link to the neocons, the warmongering hacks that destroyed so much of the credibility of the Republican Party during the Bush administration. They tried to make Kerry in the DNC convention the go-to guy for connecting with those neocons when he was supposed to be in another storyline, if this is pro wrestling, which it is, and the other pro wrestling storyline in 2004, he was the hippie who was criticizing the war in a valiant way. You see how this stuff is so superfluous? It's so stupid and waste of time. They trot these characters out. 1 minute they're a heel, that means a villain. The next minute they're a good guy, they're a babyface. And the moderators and journalists are supposed to be like the referees. People who think that pro wrestling is fake sometimes still believe probably that the referees are actually like rule keeping in some kind of like perpetuation of the fantasy games rules, but they're not. They're there to legitimize and make you believe that the conflict is more official and real and sports-like. But in reality, they're there just to make sure everybody's okay and make you believe that the narrative is legit, the conflict is legit. So when they say, hey, we're going to have a debate, and they say, okay, here's the question. What are you going to do about the Proud Boys or something? And you're like, what? Some stupid internet group? Who in the hell cares about that when we have millions of proud people in Syria and Libya and Iraq and Afghanistan maimed, dismembered, blown apart, displaced, and killed by Obama Biden? But they want you to feel that that team is the Mickey Mouse heroes. And then so many people spend their whole life watching Netflix programming and Amazon and HBO and Showtime and all of these programming, and they think that this is the real reality. They think that what they see on the television screen is the real reality. So they think that Obama and Biden were some kind of noble defenders of human rights. All they did was pillage the planet. And they created phony scams, green energy scams. Go watch Michael Moore's movie, Planet of the Humans. Fantastic takedown of these scams on the green industry rigged market that it is. So folks, all I have to say is down with the TV era. It's all falling apart, and we have to be vigilant in creating the kind of culture we want. That means get your kids out of government school, get out of debt, turn off the garbage content, educate yourselves, embrace freedom, and let's get on with our life. We'll be back in just a moment with Trail Thoughts with our friends Alec Klein and Eric Campman. Don't miss it. David Granowski.
Ronald Reagan will turn over in his grave if he saw what's going on today.
Crazy things are happening.
You cannot be afraid. You've got to stand up for what you believe is right.
But one thing is for sure.
You can't trust anybody.
For talk, news, and information, you can count on us.
Enough is enough. I mean, I almost blew a gasket.
Good for the country.
I know what I'm talking about. A lot of wackos out there.
Your connection to talk about it. The all-new News Talk 1040. WHB.
Before heading to Florida for campaign rallies, President Trump at the White House earlier today announcing another Arab country normalizing relations with Israel.
The president's already announced a string of peace deals with Israel and formerly hostile nations, now including Sudan. Mr. Trump telling reporters he thinks Israel's biggest adversary is next.
Iran is poor. Hamas is poor. They're all poor. and they weren't poor 3 years ago. They were blowing everything up.
President Trump predicting that relentless U.S.-Iranian sanctions and his winning the election will finally force Iran to talk peace. Andy Field, ABC News, Washington.
The Treasury Department announcing new sanctions on a Russian government cyber institute, but not for election interference. The Russian Research Center is responsible for creating the malware known as Triton, which has been deployed against U.S. partners in the Middle East. That, according to Treasury officials. One cybersecurity firm says it can shut down industrial safety systems in the infrastructure grid. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
David Gronowski here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals, join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa. Not attorney spokeswoman.
Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a 6th-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR. If you want to grow your savings these days, it's good to own gold. Who wants to hold dollars in a savings account earning 0.5%? Instead, check out Monetary Metals, started by my frequent guest, Keith Weiner. They put your gold to work, and you earn 2 to 4% interest, paid out not in dollars, but in more ounces of gold. Plus, there are 0 vault fees. With several active deals open right now, they're taking new clients today. Learn more at interestongold.com/David. That's interestongold.com/David.
Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice Radio. I'm your host, David Gronowski, and now it's time for our series we've been developing on Fridays as we journey through life together. We call it Trail Thoughts, and we're joined by 2 individuals who are wordsmiths of their own in various ways. We have Alec Klein, investigative journalist, who joins us, as well as Eric Campman, who's a book publisher. Thanks for joining us, guys. How you doing?
Great to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good to be here, David.
And today's an interesting topic, and I'm just going to set the table because I'm going to leave it to my storyteller friends to set the scene. But it's about fear. And that's a big topic right now. A lot of people are really nursing fear. It's been a fearful year, a fearful time, and it's an interesting topic. How do you overcome fear?
So do you want me to just jump right in?
Yeah, jump.
How do you overcome fear?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you have to know what it is. And so Alec and I were talking separately during the week at some point. And I told him an odd story about when I began, about 30 years ago, when I began reading the Bible on a daily basis. And because I'm a commuter, I would use the train time, which was about 50 minutes, train time into Grand Central Station, to actually read the 3 or 4 or 5 passages in the Bible that was scheduled for that day. And I would sit down in my seat, and it's a 3 across seat, and then the other side's 2. But ordinarily, it's a pretty full train. Somebody would be near me or looking after. And one of the first kind of natural responses I had was I would cover up my Bible. And you would say, that's strange if you're living sort of in the Midwest or in the Southeast or Southwest. Why would you do that? And I would say the whole thing of you get along to go along. Well, in my community, reading the Bible out in the open was verboten, to quote the Germans. Nobody would say you can't do it, but the fear would be ridicule or people looking down at you and saying, this must be another uneducated person, or something obnoxious like that that would put you on the defensive. So that actually, I lived that way for quite some time. And the reason I bring it up here is because of the pandemic, because of the election, because of a lot of different things, our lives have been turned upside down. And one of the natural results of that is a huge explosion of the fear of the kind that I'm talking about. In other words, the consequences of reading the Bible is usually not getting shot by something or hurt by somebody. It's the fear of something you don't know, the fear of being in surroundings that may seem dangerous to you. And so I thought that this would be a good topic today because the fear was unfounded. The fear was detrimental to my growth as a Christian, because in the Christian walk, not only we commanded to know the Word of God through Scripture, but we're commanded to do
our money and watches their spending dollar by dollar so that every one of our limited tax dollars makes it into the classroom to benefit our kids. Lynn Gray's only priority is our kids and their education. Support fiscal conservative Lynn Gray for re-election to the Hillsborough County School Board District 7. Paid political advertisement paid for by Lynn Gray for School Board District 7.
From the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media, A Neighbor's Choice. I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gronowski. So glad to be with you across the airwaves on FM and AM, our podcast and video live stream, wherever you can find it. And you might be watching on some of our other platforms that we're on, MeWe and all these other different platforms. You can find us there. Growing audience in Congo like never before. It's amazing to see all the different voices coming to the A Neighbor's Choice program. And that's exciting because this is a global movement that's based on localism, based on getting back to basics, getting back to our neighborhoods. So first, I want to talk about a story that I just saw today that I thought could help illustrate kind of some of the problems and weaponized ignorance in our system today. The story is in TMZ. Jennifer Aniston says, "Don't vote Kanye, not funny or responsible." Of course, Kanye West is running a write-in campaign for president. And I don't really care about, who's running for president. Presidencies are not very effective for what I am interested in, like actual solutions, not politics. But I just want to illustrate some of the weaponized ignorance that the establishment culture continues to find effective for millions of people who trust their television. The article says Jennifer Aniston isn't laughing with the folks voting for Kanye West. She says a vote for Yeezy is flat out irresponsible. The actress says she just dropped her ballot off and her early vote is for the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris ticket. Surprise, surprise. An independent artist is going to do exactly what every single Muppet in Hollywood and music does. Isn't that just amazing? Just so liberated in their thinking. They can process things at a level you just can't ever expect. It's truly avant-garde, isn't it? And so the article goes on to say, well, I'm just going to get down to her. I want to get down to her exact statement here because it's interesting. I think it helps illustrate. This is on her Instagram. She's got a picture of her mask up and her nice expensive sunglasses or whatever. And she's putting her little ballot in. And she said, hashtag, I voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. You would never guess. I do exactly what everybody in my industry and elite income bracket does. Isn't that amazing? I dropped my ballot off and I did it early. I voted for them because right now this country is more divided than ever. Right now, a few men in power are deciding what women can and can't do with their own bodies. And apparently that means it's their own bodies when the child is already born and the Democratic Party wants you to be able to have legalized infanticide. So it's not their body, but she wants to hallucinate and lie and say it's her body if there's a child on the table. And as the Virginia governor said, if they're born, but we didn't want them to be born, we have ways of dealing with them. And so that's what she says is her body. So she's lying. She's bearing false witness against millions of people who have a right to their own body. And she's using the old eugenicist line that is popular with elitist, rich, decadent capitalists like herself, where they always talk a big game about, oh, yeah, it's our body. Yeah, my body, right? So I can sacrifice another person's body. And they always say, well, it's because they're totally dependent. So that makes them a parasite, which makes me have my right over them. And it's like, wait a second. a newborn is even more dependent than someone in the womb. I mean, they're even more needy. They're even more taxing. They're just as they're leaching nutrients from the mother's body and extremely time consuming. It's more needy for the parents' time and energy and life source and energy and caloric needs. It's even more dependent when it's out of the womb. And yet, of course, people like Jennifer Aniston say right now, a few men in power are deciding what women can and can't do with their own bodies. Let me tell you something about what men in power did, Jennifer Aniston. You know what men in power did, like Joe Biden? They made sure that children in Afghanistan got their bodies blown apart. That's on you, Jennifer Aniston. That's what you do. You are weaponizing bigotry with your stupidity of enabling warmongers like Joe Biden. How sick is that? How many women's bodies have been murdered by Joe Biden? And you know that. You know that because he went along with the war in Libya, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and Syria, and Yemen. He went along with drone strikes against innocent civilians in Pakistan. It made their donors a lot of money. So you want to talk about men in power doing something to women's bodies? What have they done all over the globe, Jennifer Aniston? And you know that. You knew that they killed those people. You knew that they went off to wars that we should have never been in there, and that they allowed our soldiers' bodies to be burned and maimed and dismembered. And I hate to use the real language, but you have to. You have to when you're dealing with stupid Muppets, because stupid Muppets want to use these little jargon, these little words like, a few men in power have hurt women's bodies. Yes, they have, and you're voting for those people. You clown, you bigot, you're voting for those people. How many women's bodies have been murdered by Barack Obama and Joe Biden all over the globe? We didn't need to be in Libya. We didn't need to be in Syria. We didn't need to be in Yemen. We didn't need to be in Ukraine. We didn't need to be in Somalia. We didn't need to be in any of those places. And arrogant bigots like Jennifer Aniston, stupidly, I guess they're either the dumbest people in the world, but they're not. They know better. But they don't care about women's bodies in Afghanistan. Why do they want to occupy women's bodies in Afghanistan, Jennifer Aniston? Shame on you. Get your hands off of the innocent people's lives in Libya and Syria and Afghanistan. That's the record of Joe Biden. You sick people want to hurt these bodies over in Afghanistan. I'm sick of you lying about, I talk about women's bodies, and then you're letting people get killed and dismembered over in Afghanistan. For what? For profit? You sick freaks. Tired of these people. Who wants to listen to these clowns lecture us? Stupid, arrogant, decadent losers. Let's continue. Our current president has decided that racism is a non-issue. Oh, it's a non-issue. So your president, Jennifer Aniston, you clown. Jennifer Aniston, is that her name? I don't even know what her name is. Jennifer Aniston. What is her name? I forgot these losers. They haven't been in movies in a long time. If they're any relevance, but let's see. Yeah, okay. Jennifer Aniston. You talk about racism as a non-issue with President Trump. Barack Obama did nothing for historical Black community colleges, right? He didn't do anything for that. Now, I don't believe government should be funding universities' education at all. But if you want to talk about like what's being done for racism, under Obama and Biden, and Biden lied. He said, I couldn't do criminal justice reform to reform my racist crime bill because the Republicans were in charge of the Congress. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. You had the House when Barack Obama won at the beginning of his administration. You had it, and you had the Senate. You had the full power, Biden, to do something about criminal justice reform, and you didn't because you don't care. And Jennifer Aniston doesn't care, or else she's weaponizing her immense amount of ignorance. And I don't think it's the second. I think she doesn't care. She cares about virtue signaling, taking photos of her ballot on Instagram. Our current president has decided that racism is a non-issue. Yeah, just like your favorite little Biden wrote the crime bill that locked up thousands of people. Many of those people have been on my show and talk about their long decades of being in prison, the children's pain and crying, and you don't do anything to say sorry for that, Jennifer Aniston. You just want to hire this crook to put more people in prison? You sick people. You're sick. How can you be so self-righteous, you hypocrites, and talk about, oh, this is not racism has become a non-issue with this guy I'm supposed to hate on television. Your guy, Joe Biden, locked millions of people up for nonviolent crimes with his stupid bills targeting racial communities. It's disgusting. He goes on, he has the vice presidency. Barack Obama, your hero, has the presidency. They had the House, they had the Senate. They could have rectified their wicked, racist crime bill and more importantly, anti-human crime bill. That's what it's all about. Being anti-human is what these folks do. And you could have rectified that in 2008 when you won. But you don't care about racism. You're just a virtue signaling, decadent corporatist. Oh, let's continue. So he has repeatedly and publicly ignored science. Too many people have died. Oh, so like a little child, you think that 200,000 plus people died because they have comorbidities caused by the food pyramid's recommendations and subsidies under both parties for decades of polyunsaturated fatty acids, high fructose corn syrup, inflammatory modified wheat and soy and corn products. These things are not healthy to have at the level that the federal government and its single-payer nutrition science recommends. And those things, you can look at the science, are linked to the rise in the comorbidities of diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and other issues which are associated with lethal cases of this new virus. But no, we have decadent bigots like Jennifer Aniston saying he has repeatedly publicly ignored science. That's just stupid. That's just your God. You just put the word science there like he has repeatedly disobeyed Thor. What? You don't know who Thor is. You have repeatedly disobeyed Odin. He has repeatedly disobeyed Marduk. That's all you're saying, Jennifer Aniston. You're just throwing in a word that makes it sound like you've got some kind of transcendence that you're appealing to when you don't know shit. You don't know anything about what's going on because the record is clear that 200,000 people died of COVID because they have comorbidities. If you're not eating the food pyramid crap, the polyunsaturated fatty acids, the carbohydrates, the sugar, then you're not going to have a likely high risk case of this COVID virus. Now, there's other factors, of course, but by and large, when you look at the dissection of the different people's deaths and their association with heart disease and different things that are caused by eating these vegetable oils, these things that government has subsidized for decades on both sides of the aisle, that's where these deaths come from. So you're ignoring science, Jennifer Aniston, and all the clowns that your establishment narrative represent. You're ignoring science. And that's why people are dying. Too many people are dying. So she goes on to say, I urge you to really consider who is going to be most affected by this election. If we stay on the track we're on right now, your daughters, the LGBTQ plus community, our Black brothers and sisters, the elderly with health conditions, and your future kids and grandkids, who will be tasked with saving a planet that our leadership refuses to believe is hurting. This is just the same old narrative of what I've been telling you. The state is a religion, and they disguise their religion in the imitation of Christianity. So notice when Jesus said he's come to have the meek inherit the earth and the poor in spirit, blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are the victims. He heals the people who have leprosy. He heals the people who are disenfranchised. Well, see, what they do is they create this state religion where it's all about victims. Your daughters are under attack. The LGBTQ plus are under attack. The Black brothers and sisters that Joe Biden locked up are under attack. The elderly with health conditions that are fed single-payer nutrition, garbage, polyunsaturated fatty acids, and then left into nursing homes by Democrat governors with COVID in them, they're under attack. And your future kids and grandkids will be attacked because the planet, you don't want to do anything to help it because it's hurting. And you say to yourself, Jennifer Aniston, why don't you come on this program and help us elevate the voices of people who are doing low energy nuclear reaction? That's actually a clean energy source that would be tremendously effective and very effective for poor people. See, you're a rich person, so you don't care about things that are actually price effective for an economy to be sustained on. But we do, because we actually deal with real people on this program, Jennifer Aniston. We're not just Hollywood clowns. So on this program, we're actually going to have voices in the low energy nuclear reaction field. who are doing what they used to call low temperature or cold fusion. They're doing this work. Now, this is exciting stuff. This is where you have clean energy too cheap to meter. But your stuff isn't doing this. Your clown garbage government proposals are just rigged. Go watch Michael Moore's movie, Planet of the Humans. It's rigged stuff. All you're doing is propping up no-win wind farms and solar panels. These are not effective. They are not cheap enough to afford the energy for the average person. They're not working. They require massive government subsidies to enrich corporatists off the backs of hardworking taxpayer dollars. They are not effective. We need things like cold fusion. It's not cold fusion. It's a better term is low temperature nuclear energy. We need these things, and they're not going to come from government green energy deals. So if you believe the planet is hurting, that's fine. Use your brain and actually tell the truth. Stop lying and supporting fake green energy programs that are going to do nothing to solve the planet's problems. And as for this last stuff about the LGBT and daughters and black brothers, again, trying to act like they're on the side of the victims when all they are is the status quo establishment that have been victimizing every one of these people that are listed in these categories. The human person is what matters. And people like Jennifer Aniston, look, it's not personal. What we're doing is we're telling the truth about the lies that these shills have pushed for so long. I'm David Gronowski. You're listening to A Neighbor's Choice. Email me hello@aneighborschoice.com. Back in just a second.
David Gronowski here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals, join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa.
Not attorney spokeswoman.
Senator Rasan has stood up for our community. He served as the president of the NAACP, fighting for your civil rights, and as a local personal injury attorney enforcing the rights of the injured. He passed Jordan's Law that reformed our child welfare system to save lives. Senator Rasan brought back millions of dollars for mental health resources. And during the pandemic, Senator Rasan pressured the state to hold the company who built the broken unemployment system accountable.
I'm Senator Darrell Rasan, and I'm asking for your vote to continue fighting for you.
Political advertisement paid for and approved by Darrell Rasan for State Senate District 19.
Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a sixth-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR.
Hello, David Gronowski here. You're listening to A Neighbor's Choice, our website, aneighborschoice.com. Make sure if you're listening on a podcast platform like Apple or whatever, that you leave a good review. If you enjoy the show, it helps other people find the show who want to be a part of the media revolution that we do here. We're the missing link. We provide a missing link between today's fake news headlines and yesterday's mythology. We bring it all together in one big sweep of history and into the future. It's nothing like it in media, and that's why it's special. That's why we've made an outsized impact just in our inaugural days together, just starting off simple and humble together. We're making a huge impact way outside of our what you would normally expect for a new startup program. Someone online, Smith, says, and these people think that adding women to the draft is also a woman's choice. Exactly. That's the thing I just despise about this victimist religion, the politically correct religion. It's so nominal. It's so fake. It's so corporate hack crap. It's just gross. That's why I call it McWoke. McWoke jokes think it's women's progress to put women into evil, illegal, lying, deceptive wars. War is hell. War is hell. It's not even, that doesn't even describe it appropriately. War is a horrible atrocity. It's the worst thing that human beings can do. Just randomly murdering each other in fields because Halliburton or somebody needs a paycheck. Go read War is a Racket by General Smedley Butler, and he traces how much people make money off of toothbrushes and shoes and shoelaces and rubber and ammo and all the stuff that war provides. It's a terrible socialistic program. But you have this horrible atrocity, and these people think it's progress to say, hey, let's be McWoke. Let's shove more women on the front lines of war so that they can be lied to and sent to their death for no reason, to make people money. Trillions of dollars wasted, thousands of people injured, psychological trauma, moral injury they come back with, PTSD, their families suffer, and the stupid left, obsessed with eliminating differences instead of actually loving people as human beings. That's their problem. They have this kind of disturbing, sterile, weird, freaky, mutated perspective of compassion. So they're saying it's loving to women to put them into lying, illegal wars where they're going to be shot at, where they're going to be lied to by politicians, where they're not going to be able to see their family, where they could be totally traumatized by seeing moral horrors, children shot, burned villages. And they think that's helping the women? It's so sick. It's so devoid of life, their ideology. Where's the compassion? Where's the real human love? The progress for women is to keep women away from war. Keep women away from war. Why would you want to put women to be shot at for lies? If we're being invaded, it's fine if a woman wants to pick up a shotgun and defend their house from a marauding army. That's fine. That's what real women's power is. Real self-defense. That's fine. But that's not what the progressive lemmings, the Luddites, want. They want to put women in unnecessary illegal wars so they can be maimed and destroyed and lied to and horrified by terrible moral atrocities. What a joke. But the good thing is their media monopoly is falling apart, which means their mythology is dying too. And A Neighbor's Choice is here to see it happen. We're here to help it, just give it a little push to make it go a little faster. Exciting. Back in just a moment with more. I'm David Gronowski.
There is all kinds of lunacy going on. The madness of 2020.
Weekdays 11 to 2.
I'm just so fed up with these Democrats. It's unbelievable.
Get it straight from Chris Plant.
They're so hypocritical. It makes me sick.
It's the Chris Plant Show.
This has just got me going on.
And the left is waging war against the police in the United States.
Telling it like it is.
You should be thanked profusely for getting to the point. You're a voice of reason in the sea of idiots.
The Chris Plant Show. Weekdays 11 to 2. News Talk 1040 WHBO.
If he's elected president, he'll tackle COVID with more rapid testing for free, says former Vice President Joe Biden in Wilmington, Delaware.
We need to increase both lab-based diagnostic testing, with the results back within 24 hours or less, and faster, cheaper screening tests that you could take right at home or in school.
President Trump rallying a crowd at the senior community, the Villages, Florida, on Biden.
All he talks about is COVID, 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 because they want to scare people, and we've done so well with it.
At least 52 million votes have been cast in the election so far. Since Sunday, 14 states have reported a record number of new COVID cases. ABC News has learned that Russian agents since at least September have conducted a campaign against a wide variety of targets, including dozens of government and aviation networks, and that systems containing voter registration information from 2 counties, one in Indiana and another in California, were successfully hacked by the Russians. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
So the clowns in the victimist religion, they don't talk about the suffering, the slavery taking place in Libya because of Barack Obama and Joe Biden. But they are in a tizzy today, as clowns chasing their tails are often going to be. And that is, they're worried and upset because Trump described the air in India as filthy. He also said the air in China and Russia is filthy, but apparently the victimists, clowns that they are on Twitter and so forth, they are just so upset that Trump said the air in India is filthy. Wow. That is just so sensitive. It's so insensitive. So my question for you is the air in India filthy? Is the air in India where it needs to be? See, when you're in the victimist religion, just like you think it's progress to send women to lying wars, to go off to wars that shouldn't be done so they can get shot and stabbed and hurt for no reason other than a lie to make somebody money. These same clowns think that it's the worst thing in the world if someone says that the air is filthy in another country. They don't talk about the Russia part because, of course, Russia is a designated villain by these lemmings, these hacks for war. So they don't care about the fact that he said the air in Russia is filthy. But they're really concerned about making a fantasy that it's somehow racist to point out that the air needs work in India. This is how stupid these people are. I mean, it is stupid, okay? Can we just call it like it is? Do we have to say it's not right or it's foolish? No, it's dumb. But that's what the corporate press does. They make you stupid when you watch them. They just draw you down into low information insanity where you're upset and huffing and puffing in a paper bag because Trump said the air in India is filthy. He said it is Russia, but they don't care because Russia is a designated villain of the war machine. So they don't care about that. They just want to turn it into some kind of racial thing because that's all they see. It's like some kind of insane, neurotic obsession with trying to find racism under every rock. Meanwhile, they're going to go vote for a guy who was trained by segregationists, Joe Biden. I mean, that's the most greatest irony of it all. It's pathetic. A guy who's trained by segregationists and a KKK guy. What is his name? Strom Thurmond or whatever? I don't know. Maybe what's the other guy's name? Someone can help me remember the name. But these guys were trained by these segregationists, Joe Biden, and that's who they're shilling for. A man who used imperial privilege to destroy Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. And it doesn't do justice just to say those countries' names because there are faces And those people's names deserve to be told, just like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Because unjust attacks against people's life matter, whether they're in this country or abroad. But the left, they act like they care about the people and they care about the oppressed, but they don't care at all about the foreigners. They're going to go vote for warmongers who are going to start more wars and bomb more innocent lives. Kamala Harris calls herself a Harry Truman Democrat, the guy who bombs Nagasaki. But these clowns, look how pathetic they are. They want to make something racist because Trump says Russia and India have filthy air, but they're going to go vote for Kamala Harris, who locked up people of color and calls herself a Harry Truman Democrat, lauding a man who bombed Christian civilians in Japan and Nagasaki. Bombed them. You see how their moral priorities are so twisted and so out of control? So the number one thing you have to do when you deal with the victimist left is to just deprive them of their ability to have the fantasy that they have the moral high ground. They have nothing to offer for clean energy. My program provides answers for clean energy, too cheap to meter. They have nothing to offer for actually protecting the immune system from new viruses. Our program is about liberty, and we show people who give you the proper nutrition understanding so that you can equip your immune system. They know nothing about how to solve diseases like diabetes and cancer and so forth. We have the people on the ground without political support, without their little Hollywood lemming corporate stamp of approval, doing the hard work to actually cure difficult diseases like cancer and diabetes and so forth, using non-toxic therapies that don't require government health care and don't require private insurance even to afford. They don't offer any solutions. They don't offer science. They are the party of Luddite behavior, hatred of science, hatred of progress. And I know they don't know that. I know they're caught up in mimetic delusion. I get that. I understand that. I'm not saying that these people intend all the violence that they're supporting. But I mean, at what point are we going to stop giving people a pass? Man has 50 years in office and he uses it to lock everybody up, putting them in rape cages for nonviolent crimes. And then these people have the audacity to lecture us and call themselves the resistance. You're not resisting anything but progress. You're not resisting anything but the liberation of people, because at least President Trump has actually freed many of the people that their hero Joe Biden locked up. I want nonviolent people all home from prison. No victim, no crime. No victim, no crime. That's my principle. The left says, we'll lock you up for anything. We'll lock you up if you have a hair salon open. We'll lock you up if you're cutting grass without a mask. We'll lock you up if you're hanging out in your front yard. We'll lock you up if you miss too many days of government and education's indoctrination, like they did Cherie Peoples under Kamala Harris in California. We got the receipts. They'll lock you up for drugs. They'll lock you up for raw milk. They'll lock you up for anything. Lock you up for speech eventually. That's what they want to do. Lock you up if you own an AR-15 or something. Because they want to use the state to use violence against you for everything. Probably want to lock you up if you eat meat if they have a chance to. And that sounds, you say, oh, that sounds ridiculous. No, it's not. They'll create some kind of regulation that you have to comply. And then they'll find a way to threaten you with violence if you don't follow the regulation. Even the minimum wage law, for example, has criminal penalties to it if you don't follow it through, right? If you don't obey. So everything the left offers is all about pulverizing the individual human person for the collective good. That's called old-fashioned sacrificial violence. That's called what Caiaphas said when he wanted to plot to kill Jesus. It is better that one man die than the whole nation perish. That's the mantra of statism on the left and the right. But the left seems to be politically fundamentalist in their love and devotion for a cradle-to-grave state. The right is archaic in their understanding of the state, but they're open to actually having conversations about emancipation and liberation. The right's actually the one that's led the charge on criminal justice reform, and they haven't gone anywhere near the level I want. But where there's action, it's actually being led by the right, with President Trump freeing 3 to 5 times more people. And many of those people are on my program, so I know what I'm talking about. Let's go to this clip from Ivanka Trump. Donald Trump just shared it. with Duke Tanner, who just received clemency after 16 years in prison from, he was put in there, he was sentenced to, this is Ivanka Trump describing it, Duke was sentenced to life in prison for a first-time non-violent crime because of Joe Biden's 94 crime bill. And so let's go ahead and play this clip from Duke Tanner.
First and foremost, I want to give all the praise and glory to God. Thank you for hearing me. But President Trump, I just want to thank you for giving me a second chance and believing in me and reading my petition. I'm just so thankful. It's just 20 years ago, I fought at the Trump Casino, and now you signed to give me clemency. First, I didn't know it was real until I was able to bring and touch this little guy right here. I left him when he was 2 years old, President Trump. You reunited me back to my family. I lost my mother and my father, but I got him. And this is what I live for. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart, all praise and glory go to God. Thank you. Thank you, the whole Trump administration, because you guys read it.
So that was Duke Tanner, who received clemency this week, Wednesday, from President Trump. And thousands like him have been getting early release under the First Step Act. Obama and Biden, they had the House, they had the Senate, and they could have corrected their racist mistakes that Biden had done before, but they didn't. And again, it is racist because they did target minority communities with these laws, and they still do. But at the end of the day, more importantly, it's anti-human because every human being's life matters, and every human being life is sacred. And you shouldn't lay a finger on another person's life and put them in a cage where there are violent people for a nonviolent crime. That is an addiction issue. It's a thing of the heart. It's a thing that if it has consenting adults buying the drug, that is a problem you deal with by allowing the profit margins to evaporate under the competition that comes out when you legalize something. And so Trump is actually moving in this direction. He's leading on this. And so Duke Tanner will be on our program next week with Amy Pova. That's what our plan is. We had Alice Marie Johnson on this program this week. We heard from Rufus Rochelle, who has said similar things about the crime bill that Biden and the left's favorite darlings pushed for. Rufus Rochelle is on home confinement now because of the Trump administration. Craig Cecil, who we've had on the program, first time, nonviolent offense, gets a life sentence. He comes home now. He's home now after he's been on our program. And because of the Trump administration, because of Bill Barr giving him early release. Tyneese Hall got clemency. She came on our program, asked for clemency. She got clemency. She's now home with her family. Catherine Toney, the first woman released under the First Step Act. She came on our program multiple times right when it happened, right when she was released. She got a job with Walmart thanks to Jared Kushner calling them directly and making sure she got a great job. She's thankful for what Trump did. Tyneese Hall, I said. We have folks all over the place. John Bolin had clemency from Trump this week. He came on my program, and his wife came on, and other people like Rufus Rochelle and Amy Pova came on the program. We talked about him a lot. We had him write an article on aneighborschoice.com that got a lot of attention. We even had a person who spent time with him, Robert Mercer, come on the program and talk about John Bolin. Now he's home with his family. That's real results. Those are real results happening. Any step towards the liberation of human beings is what we want. The left says they want liberation of human beings, but they can only see people as groups, and they can only see people as some kind of superficial nihilism. Their liberation of humanity is seeing women go off to illegal, lying, deceptive wars to get killed for lies. That's their glory of their stupid, progressive, reactionary left. Our vision of liberation is John Bolin is now home with June Bolin, his wife, and he gets to be with his children. Tyneese Hall is home with her family. That's what liberation looks like. That's what freedom looks like. Their version is all about, do we have enough women on the front lines of this illegal, disgusting war that Biden's going to profit from? That's all they care about. The quotas. Sick corporate quotas. That's all they care about. Is Kamala Harris going to be in power? Because she's a person of color, therefore that's progress, even though she's going to lock up millions of persons of color and start wars that are going to harm persons of color, destroy the women's lives of people all over this globe, bankrupt this country, loot the public, destroy your ability to start a job. It's just insane the way people twist reality to comport with their sacrificial violence. You see, we used to have these ancient gods that people believed in, and they believed in Odin and Thor. They believed in Marduk. They believed in all of these different gods, Zeus. They believed in these gods. They believed in the Tanuki. They believed in all these gods all over the world. And these gods were psychological justifications for people to sacrifice some for some greater good. That some people's lives are expendable for the greater good, which ultimately resides in having power and control and order. But those gods never went away. The lie of the Enlightenment is that somehow one point we just decided to discard religion and move on without religion. That's not true. And the fact that we believe in that delusion gives us a lot of the reasons for why we're in the problems that we're in today. Because we think that we're too good for religion. We think that we're somehow beyond superstition and sacrificial violence, but we are thoroughly enmeshed in it. We're thoroughly enmeshed in it, and you see that everywhere you look, that the gods like Odin have now been replaced like the god called the will of the people, the general welfare, the greater good, democratic socialism, words like national interest to justify wicked wars of avarice, words like the thin blue line to justify bad laws that allowed nonviolent people to be mowed over by a nanny state. You see what I mean? Those are still just terms that are actually just psychological feelings that allow people to do the same things they did when they said Thor or Odin justifies me killing you or harming you or taking your stuff. Now they just use technical terms. Do you follow what I mean? Instead of Thor demands that you pay up, now it's the will of the people demands that you pay up, or democracy majority rules says that we've got more people at the ballot, so we get to take your money because you're rich and we're greedy, even though it's billionaires that are doing this to take out millionaires because they're competitors to them, right? But you see, that's what it's all about. We still have these gods. They just call them ideological names. But at the end of the day, they're doing the same thing. They're giving people justifications to do things as groups that they would not do as an individual. Most of the people that want to vote for crooks like Biden to fleece the public and increase regulations and increase taxation and destroy our lives, they wouldn't do these things individually, but they'll hire someone else to do it on their behalf in the shadows of a large group called voters. And the same goes for the right, because the right increases debt, they increase spending. But I'm telling you that if you don't understand the real religious aspects of political correctness, of social justice, all these different things, that we're totally going to be asleep at the wheel in understanding how to combat these things, how to actually build a peaceful future that's an alternative to this nihilism that we see all around us. And it comes back to what's at stake here. We believe on this program that the human person is sacred. The left and politically correct people, they don't. They might feel they do, but they don't. Because they're allowing mythology, they're allowing the false gods of ideology to mind numb them, to blind them from the reality of the victims of their actions. They have sacrificial scapegoats all over. They sacrifice the people who are unborn. They sacrifice people who are born. They sacrifice people in Libya. Jennifer Aniston and all these clowns on the left, they're voting to sacrifice more human beings. More people will die in wars around the world, wars of aggression, wars of greed, if Biden is allowed to have access, and Kamala Harris, who calls herself Harry Truman, Democrat, warmonger is what that is. if they are allowed to have power. More people will be killed in wars. More people will be locked up. More people will be destroyed in their businesses because of the vicious criminal nature of these regulations that these people want. But they lose sight of this. They can't see their victims because they do not protect the human person. And that's why it's so important. That's why a neighbor's choice, I hound this point all the time, that you have to understand what personhood is all about, that you can't lay a finger on a human person. You can't defraud them. You can't steal from them. You cannot violently attack them and put them in a cage with violent people and gangs that can hurt him or her. You can't do that. You don't have a right to do that. It's not right. And you know it. We all know this, but we want to make justifications to make excuses for it. And when we do that, we create chaos. We create the brokenness in our communities. We create broken families. We create economic destruction. And we create the problems that we're all facing today. So principles matter. You cannot abandon principles because principles are baked into reality itself. History has a meaning. History has a purpose. We have a purpose. We have a destiny. We have a place we're going. We have a choice to make in how we get there. And as we move through history as a people, we have to be mindful of the vision that's going to bind us together. If we do not accept those principles that the human person is sacred, if we want to use them as an expendable piece for your power, then you will get the chaos that we see all around us. That's so important, my friends. That's what a neighbor's choice is about. That's why you've come to this time, to share this thought with me. We'll be back in just a moment with more. I'm David Gronowski. Email me hello@aneighborschoice.com. We'll be back in a second.
David Gronowski here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals. Join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER. If you want to grow your savings these days, it's good to own gold. Who wants to hold dollars in a savings account earning 0.5%? Instead, check out Monetary Metals, started by my frequent guest, Keith Weiner. They put your gold to work and you earn 2 to 4% interest, paid out not in dollars, but in more ounces of gold. Plus, there are 0 vault fees. With several active deals open right now, they're taking new clients today. Learn more at interestongold.com/David. That's interestongold.com/David.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa.
Not attorney spokeswoman.
Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a 6th-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code neighbor.
So I think in conclusion of the debate wrap up, I think it's clear that Trump is getting momentum. The media has done everything they can to bias this situation. And let me put it this way to you. If, regardless of your political persuasion, maybe you're totally checked out, you don't believe in looking at politics at all. I do, because I believe most people are trying to find meaning and answers in politics. And so even though I think politics is the problem, I'm willing to go into the midst of it and try to unpack it for folks. But it's like, think of politics and the state and statism, the worship of government, all this stuff that the folks in America are wrapped up in. Think of it like a game, like football. You may not like football, but let's just imagine how many people voted, right? We got 100 million people voting or whatever, whatever, 120 million. We got 120 million people and more who are really interested in this thing called football. And they're going to use it. And let's just imagine that football impacted your life. And it affects your life. And it affects your job. And it affects your career, and your opportunity, and your freedom, and your family, and your safety, and all this stuff. So if 120 million of your neighbors are really into football, and so you don't have to like it, but every time you turn on the game, you can tell, wait a second, the refs are rigged. They're doing something. The referees, not only the referees, but the officials, the play-by-play commentators, almost every aspect of the game is rigged. And it's always rigged for one side's favor. Now, if you see this over and over and over again, you don't have to like football per se to be able to call it out for what it is, which is, hey, folks, I'm not into this football game, right? I'm not into this sport. That's not my cup of tea. But as long as you're all into this stuff and we have to watch it, let me point out something here. The refs are rigged. The commentators are rigged. The whole thing is skewed for one perspective, one outcome. Well, that's kind of what we're doing with politics on A Neighbor's Choice. It's rigged. It's clear that the corporate press and NPR radio and social media oligarchs who fraudulently pretended to be something they're not in order to gain their market dominance, and all these other government bureaucracies, it's clear that they are trying to stack culture and gaslight the public so that warmongers and banker bailout people like Biden and Harris get firmly back in power because it's predictable and that's what they want. It's clear that it's a rigged game. So whether you like politics or not, we have to understand that this has real world consequences for us, what happens. So we should be involved. We should be aware of what's going on. Not that we get our hopes up about elections. That's not where the answers lie. Elections are not going to get us the solutions we want. But we have to recognize the heart of the problem. And the heart of the problem is idolatry. These people on the left, politically correct folks, they worship the state and they believe in sacrifice and they believe that the human person is expendable. And the right does too, but the left has the monopoly control of media and culture. And so that's what we're going to spend our time deconstructing so that we can move to a better place. A place with clean energy, a place with energy too cheap to meter, a place where chronic illnesses are a thing of the past. We can fight for these things and we can have them, but we have to believe in ourselves. I'm David Gronowski. Godspeed.